Our parents told us something and we believed them because believing them aligns us with them, and we're less likely to be killed if we're aligned with them. This is called Stockholm syndrome. You may have heard of it. It's when terrorists capture a person, and within 2 or 3 weeks, that person is spouting the terrorist philosophy. It got its name from an incident like that in Stockholm. And it turns out that all children are experiencing Stockholm syndrome. They're all at risk of being killed, and so they align with the parents. They want to know what the parents believe because that will ensure their survival.
This is By Joyan Season 2. I'm your host, Joyan Chan, and every Wednesday we bring you inspiring stories, powerful message, and fun conversations with me and my special guests and friends, and it's my personal mission to empower you to live and lead a life with joy. This podcast is for you if you're looking for more joy, courage, passion, and purpose in your life. Now let's dive into today's episode and get ready to laugh, learn, and live your life to the fullest. Joining us today is the founder of the Clear Beliefs Institute, a professional certified therapeutic coach with 40 years experience. He is the creator of the Clear Beliefs method for deleting limiting beliefs, healing childhood wounds, and resolving traumas from the past. More than 600 coaches, therapists, and healers around the world have graduated from his Clear Beliefs coach training. He's also the author of 5 books, including Clear Your Clients' Limiting Beliefs and Creating on Purpose. He has taught workshops on 4 continents, and his articles have been widely published in books, magazines, and blog sites. He has also been a featured speaker on summits, radio programs, podcasts, and TV shows. And he's here today to empower you to feel freer, be happier, and achieve your goals faster and easier. So guys, help me welcoming the teacher, the healer, and the subconscious pattern detective, Lion Goodman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joyan. It's beautiful to be here with you.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited because while I was doing my research, of course, you have a life-changing experience, a near-death experience, and that's what I want to talk to you about first. So you have a near-death experience, a life-changing event of being shot in the head 4 times by someone you trusted. So talk to us about that.
Well, this happened when I was 26 years old. I was a young man on the road as a traveling salesman. And because I had grown up as a hippie and as a college student, I was a kind person. And so I would stop and help people whose cars had broken down or had flat tires or needed help. So I was a good Samaritan, as they say. And I was traveling between Las Vegas and Los Angeles through the Mojave Desert. And the Mojave Desert's a very big and very hot place. And it was about 110 degrees Fahrenheit outside. And saw a man whose car had broken down and the hood was up, and he was looking at the engine. But I also could tell that he didn't know what the hell was going on. So I pulled over and I said, "Do you need some help?" And he said, "I just put $200 into her and she won't start, and I don't know what to do." And he looked desperate and he looked like he needed some help. So I said, "I'm heading into Los Angeles. Do you want a ride?" And he looked at me kind of funny and he said, "Yeah, okay." And then he brought his duffel bags and some suitcases into my van. I was traveling in a large RV van. And he was a little odd, and I thought I would drop him off quickly, but then we became friends, started talking, and he ended up traveling with me for 3 days. And I grew to trust him. I gave him clothes. Gave him books to read, sent him on errands. And the third night out, we were camped out in the middle of nowhere near a reservoir. And I was in the back of the van, crouched down between cabinets, trying to move things around because it was a very crowded van with all of his stuff and all of my stuff. And he was in the front of the van listening to music. And suddenly there was an explosion, and I felt something hit me in the head. And my first thought is the stove had exploded. We had a gas stove in the van. And I looked up, and the gas stove was normal. And then I looked to my left, and I saw him in the front of the van with a gun pointed at my head like this. And I realized he had shot me. And that was a surprise. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Shut up, just shut up." And he shot again. And
Wow.
at first, I thought he was just going to rob me and
Right.
take my stuff. And at that point, I would have said, "Sure, take all my stuff, leave me naked outside here in the desert, and bye bye." So, but when he shot me a second time, I realized that he was going to kill me. I was a sitting duck. I couldn't move. He was 12 feet away with his hand propped up. I knew enough about physics to know that I was going to be dead soon. And so when you're confronted with death, um, what do? You basically have to decide how you want to die, because if it's inevitable, do I want to die angry and upset, or do I want to die in peace and in love? So I reached up to a source, what I call God, and said, "I'm ready to come home. I guess it's a big surprise. I thought I would have a long life, but maybe this was obviously it for me."
Right.
And I connected with a very golden light that was coming down, and he shot a third time. The second and third bullets missed me by fractions of an inch. The first bullet had hit me in the head. And so I don't know how much time went by because I was really out of time frame. But one of the things I did is I realized I didn't want to die with anything left over from life. And so I went through my life very quickly and asked for forgiveness for anyone that I had hurt. And I forgave anyone that had hurt me. I wanted to die clean with nothing left behind. And so by this time, now I'm sort of in this golden light, and um, he shoots a third time, and my body shakes, but I'm basically now beginning to float out of my body. And I was out of my body, looking down at my body and looking up, going, "I guess I'm coming home now." And when I was looking down, it was like looking down into a small dollhouse, a little van with two people playing out this drama. And But I was at peace. And the fourth shot rang out, exploded in a very small space. A gunshot's very loud, and suddenly and the bullet hit me, and my head flew to the side, and I was back in my body, which I thought was weird because I should have been out of my. I should have like So something was going on, and I didn't know what. But I had studied physiology, neurology, anatomy, psychology, and dance and movement. So I knew my body quite well,
Hmm.
and so I scanned my body to see what was missing. Because if the bullet had gone through my brain, I would be missing something. And so I'm scanning my body. The body seems intact. I'm scanning my mind. My mind seems intact. Um, and so I didn't know why I was back in my body, but I felt intact, like nothing was missing. And so at that point, there was blood rushing down from my head, and my head was like off to the side. And I thought, well, if I'm going to die, I want to look my assassin in the eyes. And so I picked up my head and I turned and I looked at him, and he freaked out. He jumped up and he said, "Why aren't you dead, man? You're supposed to be dead." And I didn't have a good answer for that question. I didn't know what the answer to that was. So I just said, here I am. And he said, "Why aren't you dead, man? I shot you 4 times. Why aren't you dead?" And again, I didn't have a good answer for this question. So I said, "Maybe I'm not supposed to die." And he said, "Yeah, but I shot you. I shot you 4 times." And he was jumping around inside the van, looking out the windows. We were in the middle of nowhere. There was nobody was coming to my rescue. That was clear. But I thought, okay, I'm alive. He's shot me 4 times, but I'm alive. I'm intact. Maybe I can talk him down. If I speak to him very slowly and carefully, maybe I can relax him. And so I tried to speak very slowly, because I knew that I didn't want to make him more angry than he was. And he kept saying, "Shut up, just shut up."
Right.
So eventually I was able to talk him down to the place where I could ask him questions and he could
Wow.
answer. We ended up talking for 8 hours.
Oh my God. How is it even
Yeah.
possible? You were injured badly.
Well, I didn't know how badly. I just knew that I felt intact.
Okay.
And later I found out that 2 bullets had grazed my skull, had actually bounced off my skull. So I realized I had a very hard aura. So that's one way to say it.
That's, that's very
So
interesting. Yeah.
so in those 8 hours, I got to know him. I asked him questions. I was really interested. Like, what made you decide kill me. And what, anyway, I learned about his whole background and growing up in poverty, and a father who beat him and was an alcoholic, and he ran away from home, and he got involved in drugs and drug dealing, and drug deals went bad, and money, and he stole his father's gun and some money and tried to escape LA, and his car broke down. So he decided to kill whoever stopped for him,
Wow.
and I volunteered. I somehow I volunteered for this job to give him someone to kill,
Mm.
but I didn't die. So at one point, I got out of the van. He had driven to a place that he knew, which was near a body of water, and he pointed down, and I walked down to the pond and kind of washed some of the blood off. And when I stood up and turned around, he said, "What would you do if I handed you this gun?" And I said, "I'd throw it out in the water." And he said, "You wouldn't shoot me? You wouldn't try to kill me?" I said, "No, why would I do that? I've got my life and you've got yours. We're okay."
Wow.
And he looked at me and he said, "Man, you are the weirdest person I've ever met." And I yeah, I'm probably the weirdest person you'll ever meet. So the end of the story is I let him go, he let me go, and we shook hands and parted. And I took myself to the hospital.
That is one crazy story. I mean, maybe the craziest story that I've ever heard, during my podcasting life. So, how did that experience then, transform your life? Or were you already, because I know you were studying about neuroscience, brain science, right, movement. Were you already helping people, with healing their trauma, healing their anger, frustration? Like, were you already doing their work, or because of this experience, then you started realizing that there are more people out there who needed this help?
Well, at this time, I was only 26 years old. So I had a college education. I had a degree in consciousness studies. Nobody was hiring people with degrees in consciousness studies because I think I was the first to get one. so, so I couldn't find a job. That's why I ended up selling things on the road. Um, and so at this point, I had studied spirituality, I'd studied the great religions, I'd studied linguistics and psychology and all these things. So I had a lot of information, but I didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
And so uh, I ended up in Los Angeles, kind of recovering from this strange thing that happened to me. And I started looking for a job because I didn't want to travel anymore. That was for sure. It's like my sales career is over traveling on the road. Uh, um, and I was offered a job by a headhunting firm, and I became a headhunter,
Okay.
uh, which is kind of odd after having my head hunted, don't you think?
You have a sense of humor. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. You have to have a sense of humor to survive this life.
Yeah. So, right. So, okay. So, what inspired you to develop the clear beliefs method that you are doing and teaching today? And how did you go about creating it?
That's a good question. So after college and after this incident, I wanted to learn more about psychology. It's like what happened? Why did he end up where he ended up as a man who was a killer and a criminal? And why did I end up where I ended up as a middle class kid who became a headhunter? So I took many workshops, many trainings. I was an avid self developer.
Mm.
And throughout all that time, I was studying many different forms of therapy and psychology, because I wanted to figure out what was wrong with me. How did this happen to me? And I took more than 100 workshops and trainings during the time I was a headhunter for 25 years. I was really trying to understand myself. And then when the dot bomb happened, that's what we called it in around 2000. My business, my $1 million business, just went kaput. It just went goodbye because there were so many people unemployed that they didn't need headhunters anymore.
Right.
And so at that point, I said, well, what do I really love to do? I love to coach people. I love to help people. I've been doing it on their careers, but I'd like to do it more deeply. So I began applying all that I had learned to my job as a coach.
Mm.
And then I realized that this was working so well from all that I had learned that I wanted to share it with other people. And that's when I started my training company. And so it was really finding my true love after being in the business world for 25 years, making a good living, raising a family. What I really love to do is helping people one on one, and so that's how I became a coach and then a teacher.
But why beliefs? Because yeah, why beliefs? Because why focus solely and so much on beliefs and clearing beliefs and deleting limiting beliefs? Like maybe share with my listeners. Okay, first, what is belief? How do we create them? How do our beliefs create our reality or personality?
Okay, well, you just asked about 10 questions, so I'll try to take them one at a time. And if I miss
Sorry
any,
about that.
you
Yeah.
it's okay. So, what are, first of all, the reason why I studied beliefs is because when I looked back at my life, there were certain times and certain things that happened that caused a big transformation in me. It's like before and after, I was a different person. And I said, what do those things have in common? And I realized that what they have in common was a deep change of belief, something very deep that I believed about myself transformed and became a different belief about myself. So, for example, my favorite example is when I was a young man and I was in therapy. I suddenly realized, oh, it's not my mother's fault. My life is not my mother's fault. And that was a big change, right? So it was my mother's fault before, it was not my mother's fault. It was my responsibility afterwards. So that was the kind of very core, deep change that transformed my life. And so I began investigating beliefs. What are they? Where do they come from? How do they work? How do you change them? And I found throughout all of my training that most techniques work either partially or temporarily. You feel good for a couple of days and then you're back to the same self. Or you're living in a different world for 2 weeks and then it's back to the same world, right? I wanted to know, how do you change it permanently and completely? How do you transform someone once and have it be done rather than have to do it over and over again? So that led me to look at what were the techniques that worked
Mm,
and applied the beliefs. And now I had a set of techniques that worked to transform beliefs deeply and profoundly and change people's lives and transform their lives quickly and permanently.
mm,
So that was the arc of development.
right.
Now, what are beliefs? Most people think of beliefs as mental constructs, like I believe in Santa Claus, or I don't believe in Santa Claus, or I believe in more government, or I believe in less government. These are mental constructs. And when applied to the self, you could say, well, what are my beliefs about myself? What are my beliefs about other people? What are my beliefs about the world? Right. So if they're just mental constructs, you should be able to just change your mind and be different. But that doesn't work. Why? Because beliefs are not just mental constructs, they're made of our experience. And our experience is multidimensional. Where right now you're seeing and smelling and hearing and feeling, and you have an energy body, and you're in an environment. You're in Hong Kong. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. We have relationships that are important to us, and so all of these dimensions are part of our belief structure. It's not just a mind game, it's an experiential wholeness that we have, and that's what beliefs are. They're constructs. They're like the Lego blocks that we build our consciousness with.
Mm,
So I call it the infrastructure of the human mind, in the same way that neurons are the infrastructure of the brain.
right.
Okay, so in order to clear a multidimensional construct like that, you need a multidimensional tool, because you want to clear it out. And when you clear it out completely out of all the different systems, then it's gone, then it doesn't come back, and you've got a permanent transformation.
Mm. So, okay, before we talk about your method and what is this tool, why do beliefs has such a strong hold on us? Yeah, why is it so hard to change a belief?
The reason is that we construct our sense of self from our beliefs. We construct our ability to be in the world with our beliefs. And the ego's primary job is to keep you alive. And one of the rules of the mind is that if I'm in danger and I do something and I get out of danger, I survive, I have to keep doing that thing to keep surviving. So, for example, when you're little, your father slaps you and beats you up because you got a bad grade. Okay, well, he could kill me. I want to survive. So I will do whatever it takes to not have that happen again. I'm going to be the best student in the school. And that's not only a good idea, but it protects you from being beaten up and killed. And the mind says, I have to keep doing this. I have to keep being that person in order to survive. Because at any moment, dad could come in and kill me. It doesn't matter whether you're 30 or 40 years old. That belief is still running your life because it was based on survival, and the brain mind is very good at figuring out what it takes to survive and doing whatever it takes to survive. So those beliefs get locked in very early, especially when we're young, first 5 years of life, and they're very difficult to change because the ego believes I have to keep doing that same thing.
Right. Okay. I also have a lot more questions. So, okay, how do you differentiate? Because you talk about some beliefs are could be helpful, could be protective, right? Some are limiting. So, how do we differentiate between a belief that is truly limiting and one that is maybe productive? Productive, yes, maybe. Protective, productive, and helpful in a certain way.
Well, you can divide beliefs up into many different categories. One of the categories I use is limiting, because a lot of people talk about limiting beliefs. The truth is that all beliefs are limiting because they are a consolidation of reality. Reality is very complex. For example, you look at an animal and you say, oh, that is a cat. That's a belief. That means the word is applied to that animal. But as soon as we say that, we're no longer in relationship with the cat. It's now an object. This is how language works. And so once we label something, we don't have to have a relationship with it anymore. Oh, that's just the waitress. I don't have to have a relationship with her in order to, enjoy my lunch with you. So all of these beliefs pile on top of each other. Other beliefs are indoctrinated into us. Our parents told us something, and we believed them because believing them aligns us with them, and we're less likely to be killed if we're aligned with them. So this is called Stockholm syndrome. You may have heard of it. It's when terrorists capture a person, and within 2 or 3 weeks, that person is spouting the terrorist philosophy, and this got its name from an incident like that in Stockholm. And it turns out that all children are experiencing Stockholm syndrome. They're all at risk of being killed, and so they align with the parents. They want to know what the parents believe because that will ensure their survival. And so they take on the parents' beliefs, and those become their beliefs. And every once in a while, you might show a different belief, and mother goes, bam, like that, and go, okay, I'm not going to have that belief anymore. I'll align with mom. So those are indoctrinated beliefs. And then there's really deeply negative beliefs that we come to ourselves, self-created beliefs. My father's beating me over and over again. I must be a terrible person. Or it might be associated with religion. I must be a sinner and I'm going to go to hell. Or it might be related to I have to be the best, to make sure that doesn't happen again. So these are self-created beliefs, not indoctrinated from the outside, but almost inner indoctrination. So there's many categories, and then there are positive beliefs. For example, the belief "look both ways before you cross the street" is a really good belief to have
Mm,
because if you didn't have it, you could be hit by a bus.
right.
So if the belief serves you, good for you because all beliefs create a certain reality. Like don't look both ways before you cross the street. That creates safety. That's a good belief to have. Don't give that one up. The belief I can love fully and openly. That's a great belief to have because it gives you options for relationships. But nobody will like me if I open myself and let myself be seen. That's a limiting belief, a negative belief that prevents you from being in relationships.
Mm, yeah. Okay, how do we find out what are the beliefs that are limiting us? Like, where do we even start? Do we look at our life today, right now, in this moment, like the results that or the reality that we are creating right now? And then, how do we then ask ourselves, okay, what kind of beliefs am I holding that, is creating these kind of results?
Well, there's many answers to that question, but the easiest way to start is with an exercise called belief self-diagnosis, which is in my free ebook. And I recommend that just get the ebook and do the exercise, and you'll begin to excavate the beliefs you have. And the way it works is that you ask, something I believe about money is, and then you listen to your mind. And and what you hear is money doesn't grow on trees. Okay, you write that down because that was an indoctrinated belief. What else do I believe about money? I believe money is scarce. So you write down money is scarce. And you keep doing that over and over and over again until you've kind of exhausted all of your mind's beliefs. Now you have a long list of beliefs about money. And then you take a different topic. What do I believe about women? What do I believe about men? What do I believe about relationships, love, life, science, religion? And so you can document your beliefs very easily. And then you can go through them and say, which of these are interfering with my life? Like, I want to be in a relationship, but I'm scared to date. So there's got to be a belief in there somewhere that's preventing me from going out and dating. Oh, there it is. Men are not safe.
Mhm.
Aha. Okay. Now I know what belief to change because that one's interfering with my life.
Right. So you talk about and you specialize in helping people delete limiting beliefs. And for just take me for example, I've attended so many workshops, right? And
Yeah.
beliefs workshop, beliefs clearing workshop. Yeah, I've done it all. Yet I still have certain beliefs that are holding me back, I would say. So what does it truly mean to delete a belief, and how do you help people delete a belief? Like, just are we gonna replace it? Because what I learned is that we cannot delete something, right? We're gonna replace it with something else, which is a positive, empowering beliefs.
Yes. If you delete it first, then you create space for a new empowering belief. If you don't delete the old beliefs first, and you do what are called affirmations. Well, I've got a lot of money. I've got a lot of money. I've got a lot of money. But then you look in your wallet and your wallet says you don't have a lot of money. so, so it doesn't change the amount of money you have in your wallet. Or I'm a loving being, I'm a loving being, and someone bumps into you and you growl at them. So until you clear the negative beliefs first, you can't add a positive belief on top of the negative because then they just do battle with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So clear the negative beliefs first, then you can implant a new belief, an empowering belief in its place. So how do you clear a belief? Do we have time to do a demo on you or
Sure.
not?
On me? Okay, sure. Okay,
Okay.
let's do it.
Okay. So what is one of those beliefs that you just haven't been able to kick out of your life?
Oh my god, so many. Where do I even start? Let me think of a good example. Can be anything, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Think about a belief about yourself. What
Myself.
do you believe about yourself? Yeah.
I'm not good enough.
Okay, good. That's a fairly common belief.
Yep.
Now, why would a child come to that conclusion? When you were growing up, who told you that you were not good enough? Did someone tell you that?
I can't remember, but I'm sure my parents they didn't even tell me
Okay,
that. But it's just they show that they showed me that I'm not good enough. Yeah.
that's right. And how did they show you? What was the way they showed you that you were not good enough?
I get scolded all the time, and when I cried, my mom would say, "Get out of the house!" Right? No crying babies here, or you shouldn't be crying. Yeah.
Right. So you were told that your emotions are not appropriate. We don't have emotions in this house.
Right.
And how about your grades? Did they ever talk to you about your grades from school?
I can't remember exactly, but I was always trying to be a good student.
Okay.
Because I believe it's part of the culture. If you have bad grades, then you will just get scolded again.
Yeah. And did you get perfect grades?
Nope.
So, so close your eyes for a moment. Remember your mother's look of disapproval. When she disapproved of something you did or said, what did her face look like?
Angry.
Yeah. Can you reproduce it with your own face?
No.
Okay. Good. That's fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to. You don't have to. Okay. So if someone that you loved and was important to you and was important to your survival gave you that angry face, what would you think about yourself?
That I don't deserve love.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough.
Yeah. Now, that's a typical conclusion for a child with critical parents or parents with high expectations. And the problem is that had they loved you for who you are and they said you're just wonderful, you're charming, your grades are great, keep going, you're just terrific, everything you do is wonderful,
No.
you would be a different person, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the core of this belief, I'm not good enough, didn't come from you. You didn't make it up. It came from how your parents looked at you and talked to you and treated you. And
Mm.
that was what you made up is I'm not good. I must not be good enough because otherwise I would get the love I need and want.
Yes.
This is a typical childhood belief because children blame themselves for whatever's happening.
Yeah.
I'm being beaten. I must be a bad person. Because a child can't say, wow, mom and dad are really screwed up. They should have gotten some psychotherapy before they got married, and they should have gotten marriage counseling before they had babies. They should have taken a child rearing class before I was born, but they're messed up.
Mm.
The child always blames themselves because they can't conceive of the parents being at fault or in error.
Yeah.
So, in order to clear that belief, what we would do is I would take you back into childhood.
Okay.
We would work with that experience, not just the mental construct of there's something wrong with me or I'm not good enough, but with the experience of being looked at that way by your mother, whatever your father did. And we would change the experience. We would do what's called memory reconsolidation, which is a way of going back into the past and actually changing what we remember happened because we're imagining something different happened. So, so that it's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's essentially what we do. It's an experiential change. It's not just a mental change. You're actually experiencing something else happening, and it would take too long to take you through the process. But that's the
Yeah. No. Yeah. I don't
yeah.
expect that. And is it something that's because I've done hypnotherapy before? Is it something that's similar to that?
It's somewhat similar. It's somewhat similar, except that we don't tell people what to believe. We guide them into what's true for them. We don't tell them what to do. We invite them to explore something for themselves. So it's a little bit different and we also don't put people into trance. There's no trance work in our work. We just say close your eyes and imagine this scenario, and you can open them anytime.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, how long does it take for, let's say, I have a belief, a strong core belief that I'm not good enough, right? And it's affecting all areas of my lives, right? It can be my business, health, relationship, finance, right? Because I always think that I'm not good enough or I don't deserve better. So, how long does it take for me, let's say, since we are talking about, taking me as an example, to really change my belief? Like, how long would it take?
About 20 minutes.
I love that. Yeah. And why are you so confident? Can you share some, maybe some of your clients' results? Because like
Sure.
I'm quite skeptical because I've done it right and it's not working. So yeah,
Well, remember that I did lots of things too that weren't
right,
working.
yeah,
So I was trying to solve that problem exactly. It's like I want something that works once and works permanently and gets rid of it completely and gone, and doesn't come back. So that's how my system has been structured. So I'll give you a great example in the business world. So a multimillionaire came to me, and the reason that he was a multimillionaire was that he made millions and then he lost millions. Then he made millions, then he lost millions. He couldn't hold on to his money. And he heard that I was the subconscious pattern detective. So he said, "Okay, Mr. Smart Guy, tell me why why this is happening." And so in his process, I took him back into a childhood memory. And the memory was this: he was walking on the streets of New York with his mother, hand in hand. He was about 3 years old and happily walking down the street, and he saw a shiny penny, and he reached down to pick it up because he was very excited, and his mother jerked him back and said, "Don't touch that, it's dirty."
right.
And he realized that he couldn't hold on to his money because it was dirty and he shouldn't touch it. He could make millions of dollars, but he couldn't hold on to it
Wow.
because mom said it was dirty and he shouldn't touch it. And with that, we cleared it in one session, and he didn't have to lose millions anymore.
That's crazy.
This is the kind of thing that's at the core of almost all problems. Now, sometimes it's a trauma, something bad happened. Sometimes it's a series of traumas. Sometimes it's just what you missed getting from childhood. You missed the love and the care that you needed at that time. Sometimes it's something happening to you. Sometimes it's what didn't happen for you. So there's many sources of these kinds of traumas, but there's a source of every belief. And no matter what you believe, if we get to the source where it began, then we can clear it. Because when you clear it, it clears it both in the past and the future, so that it just isn't doesn't exist anymore. And often people say, "What was that old belief that I just cleared?" And we go, "Don't worry about it. It's gone. You don't have to reproduce it."
You don't have to remember it. Yeah, I love that there's a source for every belief. So now this is so powerful. So how do people work with you? Like, do you do one-on-one session or do you host workshops? I know you also do trainings for other coaches so that they can train more people. Like, share with my listeners, how do they begin this process? How can they work with you?
First of all, if you're a coach, therapist, healer, consultant, if you have clients and you want to learn how to do this for them and free them from the past and give them a new future, you can take my training called the Clear Beliefs Coach Training. And that's a 6 month training. We're in the middle of one right now. The next one will be in the spring. And to find out more about it, they can go to clearbeliefs.com. That's for people who have clients who want to learn these techniques. There's about 20 different tools that are all integrated together so that you can use your intuition and whichever tool is the right tool at the moment for that particular client. It's not a one size fits all. It's not all you have is a hammer and everything looks like a nail. That's a problem with many techniques is like I'll just use this with everybody, and but it doesn't
Right.
work with 80% of people. So it's a whole tool set so that it can be customized to the person in front of you. So that's for people who have clients or want to be a coach, a therapeutic coach. For people who want to clear their beliefs, I have a program called Clear Your Beliefs, and that's clearyourbeliefs.com. And both of these websites have a free ebook where you get the exercise, the belief self-diagnosis. And if people want to read my articles, a good place to go is liongoodman.com. And I've got lots of articles on lots of topics because I'm kind of crazy and I like to write about everything.
I love that. Now we always end with our final five rapid fire questions. So each question has to be answered in either one word or one sentence maximum.
Challenge. Is there going to be a bell that rings and do I get a prize at
No.
the end?
Oh, maybe I should start doing that. Yeah, it's a great idea actually. Yeah. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm
It's
ready.
gonna be fun. Yeah, it's
Yes.
um it's really deep. I mean, I have to warn you first. So the first question is, what is one thing you wish you knew earlier?
Okay, this is rapid fire. I can't think too much. I wish I knew earlier how to love better.
I love that. All right. Second question. If you could relive one day of your life, which day would it be?
Oh, well, it would probably be the day I got shot.
I was thinking of that too. It must be that day. Yeah.
Yeah, I once I knew a woman who got attacked by a grizzly bear, and she survived, even though part of her face was torn off,
Oh my
because
gosh.
her husband was a doctor. And she would tell the tale, and at the end, she would say, "I'm often asked if you had a chance, would you meet the bear again, or would you not meet the bear?" She said, "My answer is I'd meet the bear." So those of us who have survived trauma, it can be post-traumatic growth, not just post-traumatic stress syndrome. So please, your next question.
Yeah, I really love that perspective. Post traumatic growth, right? Doesn't have to be trauma. Yep.
Right.
Love that. If you could master one skill you don't currently have, what would it be?
Mm. Making lots of money.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Oh yeah. Really? Okay. Maybe you can ask your client a multi.
Well, I have lots of other skills already, so
Right.
I have plenty of money, but not lots of money. So lots, I have a big pile of money. So go ahead.
Awesome. Now, the next question is, if you could instantly solve one world problem, what would it be? What would you solve?
That one I know. That this is the one that I've thought of long and hard, and that is the I would cure the delusion of separateness, our belief that we are separate from each other, and that there's an other person over there, when in fact we're all one being, we're all one consciousness, and that we're all related to each other. So it's the delusion of separateness that causes war and conflict. But if I know that you are me and I am you, and we just happen to be in two bodies, we wouldn't be fighting with each other.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. Now, the last question is, what brings you the greatest joy?
Right now, it's my grandchildren. I have two grandchildren, a 5-year-old and a 1-year old, and they are the delight of my life. Being around them is total joy, and I get down on the floor and play with them, uh, and it's pure joy. It's pure love, pure joy.
That's so awesome. Yeah, thank you so much again for coming and answering all my questions. Guys, I hope you are loving this episode and learning so much from our guest today. Now go follow Lion. Thank him for coming to our show today. Visit the show note. I'll put all his links, ebooks, resources, articles on the show notes. So make sure you check it out. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss another episode coming to you every Wednesday. Thanks for listening, and I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Bye.
Thank you, Joyan. Bye bye.
Thank you again for tuning into Find Joy Joyan podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a screenshot and share it on your IG story and tag Find Joy Joyan _podcast so I know you are listening. And leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already done so. And remember to hit the subscribe button whether you are listening on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, or any of your other favorite platforms. If you love what we are doing and want to become one of our sponsors, you can send me a DM to connect. And thanks for being here. I will see you soon in the next episode.